All right, welcome. Welcome everyone. My name is Dr. April Bolton. I am the Dean of the Graduate School here at Hood College. We are streaming this session live on the Hood College Graduate School Facebook page. We are also recording this session. I'd like to welcome you to this webinar on how a professional doctorate can advance your career. We have lined up for you an impressive panel of local, regional leaders to share their experience and how their professional doctorates have bolstered their careers. So I think you'll really enjoy hearing from all of them. We will be keeping everyone muted for the first part of the panel so that we can hear our panelists. As questions arise towards the end of the panel, please feel free to use your chat feature. The chat feature can be found on your Zoom console, or you can go up to that Zoom console and click on More. When you click on More, you will see Chat listed at the top of the expanded menu. Please feel free to type in your questions there, and we can also use the raise hand icon as well, and possibly take questions one at a time that way as well. All right, well, I'd like to introduce to you now Dr. Kathleen Bands, who is the program director of our doctorate in organizational leadership here at Hood College. Dr. Bands will be introducing our esteemed panelists. So Dr. Bands, to you.
Thank you, Dean Bolton. We're excited to have you join us today to learn more about how a professional doctorate can enhance your career. As the program director for the doctoral program in organizational leadership, I have the opportunity to recruit and admit exceptional leaders into our program. And we look for leaders from different industries, from business to government, from public education to higher education, from the military, the government, and nonprofit to enroll in our program each fall. And I'd like to encourage each of you to stay after the webinar today to learn more about our 3-year cohort-based program. Today, you will have a chance to meet 4 exceptional leaders who are interested in enhancing their leadership through an advanced degree. The leaders that you meet today were among the first to take advantage of Hood's professional doctorate program. And as professionals, they became scholar practitioners. They applied their research and understanding of organizational leadership to address issues and challenges within their industry and to advance the work of their organization. They were very much engaged in the practice of leadership and are trained with the research tools to answer questions such as, how do you know if the intervention is making a difference? What happened as a result of the change? What metrics or data suggest the trend is going in the right direction? While each of our leaders have their own personal and professional reasons for enrolling in the program, they can also talk about the value of learning from exceptional leaders in their cohort and from our leaders in residence who share their leadership practice with our cohorts. Leaders enter the program every fall, and 3 years later, they defend their research studies and have the amazing opportunity and professional experience to be referred to by the title of doctor. Today, you will meet Dr. Peggy DeFore, class of 2019, and soon to defend his research study, Philip Brown, class of 2020, Dr. Laura Hanks, class of 2019, and Dr. Eric Loris Phillips. Each leader will share why they selected Hood's professional program, how the program has prepared them with growth opportunities, and how, in fact, this program has helped them to weather the COVID-19 crisis And then they can also talk about the work that they're doing that continues to prepare leaders and transform communities, our tagline. Our first speaker is Dr. Peggy DeFore, Proposal Management Professor. Welcome, Peggy.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here today to talk to you about this wonderful program. Excuse me, allergies. There are so many things that we would all like to tell you about the program. Our time is relatively short, and I'll start by saying that we wish that we were able to do this the way we usually do, which is across the table in person with you, so that we could get to know you and answer your questions on a personal level. So today, as part of the impact of COVID-19, we're here online. And it's a growth opportunity for many of us who haven't used Zoom before this last month and are really acquiring some new technological skills, and I'd be among them. I'd like to start by telling you that we understand the kinds of questions that you have about the program and how important this decision is to you. It's a major decision you're going to make that's going to affect the rest of your life. We've been there. We've struggled through this decision, and we made a decision that we believe was really beneficial to all of us, and we're so glad that we did. The Hood program is very special. It is, what's different about it, and I'll start with that, is that it really concentrates on the whole individual. It's not a program in which you will come and be exposed to a lot of curriculum and you will check off the classes and you'll be done. It's not that. It's all about growing. It's about challenging yourself. It's about what you bring to the program, and especially it's about how you and your cohort together will grow through the program and have a unique experience. The cohort part of the program was one of the most important features that the founders of the program built into it. And it is a remarkable experience. I think all of us on today's chat will agree. It prepared me for the rest of my career. Now, I am retired officially from corporate work, but I continue to work as a consultant and as a mentor to people in my profession. And what the program did for me, even as a retiree, was to give me skills that I wish I'd had 20 years ago, and give me the ability to work with people, I believe, in a better way, help my community through volunteer organization work, and be a better leader in that regard, and also be a leader in my profession. What I do for a living is I work with companies who are preparing proposals for contracts, mostly large government contracts, and I've done that for 25 years. And I had the opportunity through this program to not only help myself acquire skills, but to help my industry, because I was able to, through Hood, do the first study of that industry and look at its business ethics, its issues and problems that people are facing, and to alert the leaders of the industry on ways that they can help the people in the profession create a better work environment so that they can perform better. So that had a pretty wide impact, because that study reached people in 40 countries. And that's the kind of thing that we have the opportunity to do in this program. And it's why I'm so grateful to have been encouraged to apply, and I'm so glad that I did. Let's see, I would like to tell you also about what the reasons were that I selected the program. Some of them are technical. I mean, the fact that it was fairly near my home, it made it easy. I was kind of tired of commuting, and so that was a plus. It was a very personal program. It was small, which meant that we would have a lot of time with the faculty, which you really do in this program. And it was cohort based, as I mentioned, so that the people that you start with are the people you finish with. and you really become a family. And that is, all my colleagues will tell you more about that, I'm sure. It's true. It's on Saturdays, which made it very workable for me. Even if I had to fly out of town during the week to run a proposal in another state, I could come back on Saturday and be in class. And so that was really, really excellent. And I could finish my coursework in 3 years. And that is remarkable. And it's a rigorous program, and you get a lot of support and help from the faculty, but it is work. It is going to stretch you, and that's a good thing. That's what we all want. So the other reason I chose it was because it was not an online program. I felt that that was important for me because as an employer, I had had the opportunity to evaluate a lot of employees who had been in online programs and gotten degrees that way versus ones who didn't. And to a person, I found that the employees who had invested in in-person education turned out to be better employees. So that was my bias coming in, and I still think that that is true today. So, so that's that. So I will be looking forward to answering any questions that you might have later. And in the meantime, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who is Philip Brown. Philip is in the class of 2020. He has an MBA. He's working toward, as I am, a DBA. And Philip is a very busy person. So if you think that you're too busy to be in this program, Philip is the person that you should look at, because he is the president and CEO of Phoenix Meccano, Inc. This is a company that is a global technology company with worldwide presence at more than 60 locations, okay? And that's just one of his jobs. And from his resume, I can see that he is either the president, the CEO, or the chairman of the board of at least 3 other organizations. So he's incredibly busy. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Philip.
Thank you, Peggy. Okay, good evening. Okay, that's a little embarrassing introduction, but thank you, Peggy, you're a dear friend. Okay, so good evening. My name is Philip Brown. As Peggy's introduced, I'm the president and CEO of a company called Phoenix Meccano, Incorporated. We're located in Frederick. And I'm a member of the doctoral class of 2020. That's the second class. I appreciate this opportunity to give you some background on my professional background and, most importantly, my doctoral journey. I had planned a DBA, a doctoral in business administration degree, back in 2005, back in the UK at the Henley Management College. Life, as it does, and my career intervened. In October 2005, the group I had offices in Switzerland, they asked or drafted me to move to America with my family. We moved here in late 2005. The plan was for 3 years. I'm now in year 15. We are here permanently now. Clearly, I had a very young family, a lot of things to organize then, and doctoral studies, which were an ambition of mine, were put on the back burner. In 2017, 3 years ago, it seems like yesterday, I became aware by accident and circumstance of a doctoral program at a local college, Hood College. I attended in person an open evening and thankfully met Dr. Kathleen Vance. I was very cautious as to a program fit with my personal and professional goals. Factors for me, Peggy touched on these, were critically the Saturday class schedule. I travel a lot, and Saturdays were really the only option I had. The cohort model, the 3-year program, and the meetings I held with the doctoral program and faculty. I'd lived by then in the Frederick region for 12 years. I knew of Hood College, but did not correlate with advanced business education. I had questions with respect to the value fit for an experienced business leader. At this stage of my career, not quite retired, but not too far away, I'm seeking to bridge my professional experience and to increase my teaching. I had questions with respect to the value fit for an experienced leader. The opportunity to share this doctoral experience with a cohort, Peggy touched on this, and this is very important. In my cohort, we are 18, has been the highlight. I've worked in group projects over the 3 years with every member of the cohort, and have been privileged to see the learning opportunities and challenges and application methods through the lens of respected and trusted colleagues. Our cohort variety and blend is a credit to the selection process of the doctoral faculty. In our class, we have leaders in medicine, education, pastoral, engineering, science, human resources, social services, procurement, Veterans Affairs, and national security. The opportunity also to develop relationships with the HUD faculty is a crucial facet of my journey. Throughout the 3-year program, we have met with over 30 invited high-caliber guest speakers, sharing in detail and context their respective leadership journeys. I would say to anybody interested in this course, timing is a crucial factor. In a practitioner academic program, timing in the context of your private and professional life. I would say the cohort, again, is at the core of this program and requires your input and energy. People have many times asked me about the number of hours of study in the class. This is highly dependent on the individual and highly varied. I would share that in my journey, I have invested typically 6 to 8 hours a week outside the class environment. I would say right now, I'm in the latter stages of my dissertation, it's somewhat higher. But for the majority of the 3-year period, for me, 6 to 8 hours outside class was normal. I would say that the work I do outside or have completed outside the class has been directly, in the majority of cases, related to my professional career. I am fortunate in my career to have experienced remarkable mentors who invested in me. I hope in my next stage to continue to mentor current and future leaders. I am increasing my community engagement, encouraged by this doctoral experience. Last year, I was invited and joined the board of Frederick Workforce Development Services. I hope that my experience will be of value to this remarkable organization. I plan my doctoral final defense in June 2020. The construct of my research is directly connected to my profession and to the dissertation paper I completed for my MBA in 2004. I have a number of colleagues in my organization and external network groups that I have identified and will progressively introduce to the HUD doctoral program. I am very grateful for the opportunity I have experienced. Without hesitation, I am proud to advocate for the HUD DOL DBA. To conclude, in this COVID-19 world, we are all adapting our focus and priorities. I would hope that the experience I have gained through this program have supported me in the leadership decisions I face and apply. The doctoral program and journey are founded on the pillars of leadership excellence: mindfulness, resource stewardship, systems thinking, and commitment. The pillars of the program are paramount in this period of extreme social and economic demand. If I can answer any questions, I'll be pleased to address later in this webinar, or invite you to contact me. I thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to introduce an extraordinary doctoral colleague, Dr. Eric Lewis Phillips. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. I appreciate that. Good evening, everyone. It's nice being here with you in this format today. I want to first start off by talking a little bit about why I chose Hood College and why I chose the program in doctoral and organizational leadership. Both of my masters were actually done online, and so one of the first considerations for me when looking at pursuing a doctoral program was to make sure that it was something I would be able to do face-to-face. I thought that was going to be really important for me, and I'm really glad I made that decision. As far as Hood has an excellent reputation. The coursework, which you're being asked to do and to be able to dive into as a student there, the expectation is high. So I appreciated the quality of the institution, and I wanted to make sure that when this program was something that was initiated, I found out a little bit more about it, really thought about it, and then decided that I wanted to spend my three years of my life getting a doctorate from Hood College. But for those of us in the education field, oftentimes we have many different options between a PhD, an EDD, a doctorate in education, and then there's the organizational leadership doctorate, which many individuals in my organization don't have. But the thing that drew me specifically to that particular degree was that I'm already an administrator in the school system, and I've been an administrator for several years, but I appreciated the ability to be able to take a deep dive into what it actually means to be a leader. It's a word that's thrown out there a lot. There are many individuals that have leadership positions within their organization, but I took a closer look at the program and really thought about what was being asked of those who were to pursue this degree in organizational leadership, what I found in looking at the coursework and looking at what was going to be expected was it really required individuals to think about who are they as leaders. And so one of the things I appreciated right away the first semester was being able to take a deep dive into what it means to be a leader, who am I as a leader, and what are all those different things that inform who I am as an individual that allows me to be able to lead effectively or ineffectively. And so the program really starts with individuals going into leadership theory and looking at the different leadership theories that there are out there, how they evolved, where we are now in our viewpoint of leadership, and what we could do as individuals to improve ourselves as leaders and to improve those around us to become more effective leaders. And so what it requires you to do is to really hover above an organization, whether it's an organization that you're serving in or an organization that you're maybe partnering with or interested in working for, and taking a look at all the different facets of that organization and what makes it work, from the human capital to the financial aspect of it, to any governing boards that may be part of that organization, and really taking a close look at how do all of those different pieces fit together. What is the mission? What is the vision of the organization? As a leader, are you living that? Do those who are following you understand what that is? And do they believe in you as a leader within that organization? And so the component of the cohort model was also really appealing to me, because during the coursework, not only are you sitting there with individuals who are maybe in the same industry that you are, but you're sitting there with individuals who are in different industries that I had no experience with, from the medical field to those who were involved with manufacturing, to individuals who are lab technicians and working in laboratories or science techs, to individuals who were in the armed services. And so all of us sit together in this cohort, and there's a great wealth that comes from that because we're learning from one another. And so you really get an opportunity to see and to learn what it's like to lead in other organizations. And I felt that was very valuable, a very important aspect of the program. Since during my time in the program and since then, I've had a lot of growth opportunities as a professional, not just public speaking and being able to consult with others, but currently I'm an adjunct at Hood teaching in the graduate program. And that allows me to continue to refine my skills and the research that I do to inform the work I do for the school system I work for, which is another important aspect of the program. For those 3 years, it's not a program where it's something that's outside of the work that you do. The 3 years I spent in the program I was able to actually take back what I was learning and apply it every day as an administrator in Frederick County Public Schools. And I think that's important to note. And that's one of the differences between maybe a PhD and a practitioner's doctorate. I was actually practicing what I was learning and what I was researching. And so the research that I focused in on, actually pulled this out. This is my body of work for 2 years. So this is my dissertation. And my dissertation was really looking at leadership style, leader-follower perceptual congruence, and the implementation of an equity initiative. And the reason I wanted to share that with you is because at the time that I was acquiring and doing this research and going through this data and analyzing it and looking at what it told me and what it told me about the individuals that were in my study and about my organization as a whole, what I didn't know is that we would currently be facing a current reality, which is a complete shift and change from what we know. And one of the things I looked at in my dissertation, in my research, is as a leader, how do you see yourself as a leader? And then how do your followers see you? And is there congruence in that perception? And what I found is when I perceive myself as a leader who's transformational, if my followers also see me as being transformational, then an equity initiative, for example, which is what I looked at, is able to flourish within that work environment. If it's incongruent and I see myself a certain way, but my followers don't see me that way, then that opportunity to be able to look at the inequities within an organization or within a work unit does not flourish. So a large part of how I've been informed as a leader over the past 3 years has always been to look at myself. What am I doing to inform and to support those that I'm there to serve. And so some of the things that I wrote down here that I wanted to share with you that you really take a deep dive into in the 3 years of your program are change theory, and what does that look like in an organization, transformational leadership, servant leadership. And these are things that one may already know, but in this particular program, what you're doing in an intense, laser-like way is you're looking at how do you inform change within your organization? How do you view servant leadership? How do you view transformational leadership? And in order for us to be able to move our organizations and to move our community forward, we have to really think about those things, especially now. Things have changed drastically. And so it requires servant leaders who are willing to do and not just tell others to do. And it requires leaders that are able to transform themselves, transform their organizations, transform their communities to be able to serve all effectively. And so all of those things are covered within the program. And you're able to do that in conjunction with others. So I'm not going to talk anymore because I'm sure there are many questions that you all may have, and I'll save that for when we get to the question and answer piece. But what I would like to do next is turn this over to somebody that I have a great deal of esteem for, my colleague who I spent 3 years with, Dr. Laura Hanks. Laura Hanks serves as the supervisor of English Language Arts and Social Studies for Washington County Public Schools. So I'm going to let her speak a little bit about her experience in the program, and then we'll hand it over to some questions from you all.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to anyone considering this program for many similar reasons as to those you've heard. Why I chose Hood was based on the reputation that I had already experienced with Hood College. I came down here from New England at 21 years old as undergraduate, or I guess it would be 18 or 19 years old then. I got my undergraduate degree in education from Hood College. I also went on to get my master's degree as I stayed down here and loved the area. I'd always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to consider a doctorate. Never knowing when the right time was or how to do it. I had looked at other programs. When Hood offered this program, knowing what I knew about Hood, the reputation, the dedicated staff, I too was concerned about an online program. I thrive in structure and making sure that I have colleagues that keep pushing me forward. In fact, when I consider why Hood and why at the time that I did, a little background, yes, I'm supervisor of English Language Arts and Social Studies. I am also a mom of 2. When I started the program, my children were in 4th and 5th grade. And you never know when the right time to do this is. And it really is a personal decision. My children were still going to bed at 9 o'clock at night. I knew that I could get some work done in the evenings. But honestly, for me, it was more about the timing in my career. I was right at that midpoint of my career. And I started out teaching, and slowly as I moved to different leadership positions, ultimately being a school principal, I had worked in a couple different school districts. You move from watching other leaders and studying other leaders of examples and non-examples of what excellent leadership is. You kind of get that hunger for, I can do that too. And so you move into a leadership position, but then you also recognize when you start to get up to leadership positions that leadership can be a very lonely place. You start to mentor other leaders like that are coming up behind you, and you want to help and support them, but you also think, so where personally does it go for me? And so it was kind of that point in my career where I transitioned from watching other leaders to being that leader who is mentoring others. And so at that point, I still have a healthy 20 years in my career, and I'm thinking, what's pushing me? Who is pushing me now? And so it was that point where I thought, okay, it's time for me to start to shape myself as a leader in a personal level. The cohort model at Hood, I could not have predicted to be the experience it is. It's like no other. It can't be even compared to a master's program. I was humbled by the leaders that I was surrounded by in my cohort. One of our cohort members from our class right now is leading the COVID-19 situation for 3M. And I hear stories about other cohort members that have just done outstanding things in their career. And you're thinking, I get to spend Saturdays, picking their brain and learning from them and talking. And as I moved into the supervisor of English language arts and social studies in Washington County, we are facing a lot of challenges in education, challenges of poverty. Our literacy rates were really, really low at the start of this. We had a lot of change to make. This program allowed me to marry my work and the work at Hood. Everything I did, I could intertwine with the work in class and daily work. And so to make a change, that's where it kind of goes into, I had a hunch inside, I had an instinct, which lots of us have as leaders. And you want to be able to back all of that with, you know, solid reasoning and research. And when I started in this program in the first year, learning, as Eric told us, about what it takes to be a leader and studying yourself as a leader, it also asks you to put a mirror up and take a look at, even if you think this is a strength, how can other people perceive that as a weakness? And it changed my whole perception of myself as a leader. But simultaneously, the classes we were taking in human resources and in change and leading for change, it was so outside my realm of what I had studied in education, because we were looking at business, we were looking at military, we were looking at government. Be able to take all of that information gave my hunch the fuel it needed to move forward. And in that, it was my belief that to make a change for children in the community I served, the power lay in our teachers, and knowing that we needed to make sure that our teachers had the capacity to address the challenges of any challenges that were coming into their classrooms and the families of their children. And so by looking at, we had a course in talent management, and really being able to talk to those cohort members and instructors in the business side of it, there were a lot of things I could kind of steal from them that fueled my research. And so my dissertation topic was on building teacher capacity through talent management and blending the worlds of business and education. The whole project resulted in a comprehensive literacy plan for our district that earned us a $2 million grant to move the work forward. And we've seen, you know, every year consistent in every grade level of improved literacy. I couldn't have done that, I don't believe, without this program, and really challenging me and pushing me forward and being able to work in that cohort. There is at Hood a trust. To start this journey, you want to be able to trust those around you. You want to know that when things are getting difficult, there's always someone to lean on. The professors are always responsive and helping. And I think one of the things that people may not know going into this program is, I wanted to add, is just the guest instructors that came. The expertise that is brought in on Saturdays to meet with us. When we were studying cybersecurity, it was the professor from the Naval Academy that came in. And those are just examples of the quality of leaders that we get to interact with and develop a network of leaders that push us forward. So since this program, I too have been able to present at the national level. I've made national contacts and even been able to bring them into our own organization as advisors. I've been able to edit books, a book of a very popular educational author. I've had several different job offers in the meantime. And so basically what I can say is that this program gave me choice, and it kind of empowered me to take ownership of my own career and pathway. But it also removed a glass ceiling for me. If I look 20 years into the future, I will always be employable. And I say that honestly, not that I don't want to retire on a beach somewhere or a lake, but I want to always be able to have an impact, even beyond retirement. And so to have cohort members that were in different stages of their career, like, also opened doors for me to see things in a different way that I hadn't expected before. I didn't realize the opportunities that were out there beyond the circumference that I was kind of around, the people I was around. I have always thought education. I too have started to teach as an adjunct professor, looking at being able to serve as positions on boards for profit or nonprofit. I think that in this trying time of COVID-19, the experience I have and the time we spent in learning how to lead through change and be a transformative leader as well as servant leader is to be able to respond without panic, to say, we've got this, we can organize ourselves quickly, we can develop the best practices for students and to navigate this new environment. We spent 3 years navigating a new environment. Part of the work of the dissertation is to study something that hadn't been studied before, to look at it in a way that hadn't been looked at before. And so to be presented with such unknowns right now in the world, it kind of was a challenge that we were used to tackling, and it gave us all the skills and practice that we needed to be able to do that effectively. So once I can't say enough how life-changing the 3 years in this program was. The 3 years I've been surrounded by many people going through various types of doctoral programs, and some that takes 7 and 8 years to finish. I didn't want that. I wanted that cohort environment and the structure of the face-to-face to make sure that if I agreed to do this and I jumped in with both feet, that I was going to finish to the end. And we were and have been so proud to take this journey together and finish together. So I also am happy to answer any questions at the Q&A section. So I am going to pass this back now to Dr. Bolton for the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hanks. Thank you all. Our panelists, I hope you'll agree, were phenomenal and had true wisdom and good advice to share with all of us today. So I'd like to thank them. If our audience has a question for any of our panelists, it might work best. We do have still a decent number of folks on the webinar, so I want to try to minimize the chaos as much as I can. You have a raise hand feature. If you click on the participants, you can raise your hand, and I'm happy to work my way down and call on folks individually to ask their question. You're also welcome to use that chat feature. It should be a little chat bubble in your Zoom console. If you click on that, you can ask your question to everyone. I'll be happy to relay that to our panelists, although they also can see the chat feed. If you're not seeing the chat bubble, just go to that Zoom console and click More. The expanded menu will show you the chat option there. So feel free to either raise your virtual hand or use that chat feature. I just say personally, I really appreciate the different perspectives our panelists brought. And yep, Jeffrey, great question. What was the greatest challenge, struggle with the program curriculum? So any of our panelists, welcome to chime in on that one. What was your greatest challenge, struggle with the program or curriculum?
I'm happy to respond to that, if okay. So the greatest challenge, I think the challenge in the program, I think, is initially creating a routine and a schedule for time management. It's hard to know what to expect when you walk in. And so one of the things that we learned as a cohort is we even had little sub-study groups. And I think several of the cohorts have done that, which really helped. So the challenge was really organizing my time and structure around my family needs and my work needs. And I think the one other challenge is to remembering to have an open mind and kind of think in ways you haven't thought before, because I was challenged by some of the content that was so far from education and what I knew. So in that business realm, and when we started to talk about finance, that became completely brand new information for me. So it was also one of the greatest learning journeys I had, but one of the greatest challenges. So you have to respond with asking questions when you need to ask questions and not hesitate to ask for help at the times you need it. There were different times throughout the 3 years that we worked together with different strengths and to support each other, because when we had difficulty, when I was having difficulty in the finance group, there were 2 other people in our cohort, maybe, or 3, that really understood it and could help. And so that, again, is the benefit of the cohort, to help you address those challenges along the way. Thank you.
I could add on to that, if that's all right.
Yes, absolutely. And then we do have another question that was posed. Go ahead, Eric.
I would also, Laura made an excellent point when she talked about the management of time, and I would say the same. One of the questions we get a lot about the program is Saturdays. And when you have individuals who are working full-time Monday through Friday, Saturdays and Sundays are very valuable. So I would say that was an adjustment in regard to the program. But I think it's one of those things that when you go into it, everybody has to decide how they're going to manage that. And so you can listen to everybody that's been through the program, and they may tell you various things about how to manage that Saturday time. But what I will say is once you get into that routine, it becomes much easier. And there are opportunities where if there's an important family event or some other emergency that comes up, you're able to step away from class and come back and make that up. So I would say that was a big challenge as far as the program itself. The other piece of it is my undergraduate and both of my masters are in the education arena. So the wonderful thing about this particular program is that I was also sitting in doctorate level business classes. And so having to, and Laura referenced this as well, so having to learn that content. But the thing with that is when I entered the program, I knew it was going to be a challenge. If it's too easy, then I think I would have been questioning that. So there are going to be those moments where you do have that challenging curriculum, but then you do have your cohort there to kind of help you navigate through that. Nobody can do it for you. So I think one of the important things that we learned early on in the program, this is my personal belief and opinion about leadership, is that there is a great deal of humility that one has to have if they want to be an effective leader. And again, that's a personal opinion that I have. And so one of the things we really talked about early on was, as leaders, do we know what we don't know? So when we face those challenging moments, one of the things we learned very early on was just asking for help. So again, with our cohort, I would say probably within 3 weeks, we formed reading groups to make sure that we were able to navigate the amount of reading that we had. And that carried us through all 3 years. So those were some of the things that we did. I think it's knowing what you don't know, making those arrangements with your time, and then just kind of sticking through and seeing that end goal 3 years later.
I'd add to that. I agree with everything that Laura and Eric said there. I think in my reflection, knowing what I know now, I think it's that adaptation. It's adaptation to working with people on very different schedules, on different times. You know, my wife and I, we are empty nesters. I've got good friends in my cohort, got young children. It's very diverse. They have different demands. Children go to bed at different times. It's learning that adaptation, finding that adaptation, and learning to work with other people. You can't complete this journey on your own. It's not designed to complete on your own, and you can't complete on your own. And I think, you know, as my friends here put, this cohort, finding those people you work with, but also I think we have our own subgroups in our cohort, but we've gone out of our way to try and work with everybody and break those. You do come back to norms, but you know, I think there's a lot to be said to breaking those norms and getting outside those cohorts. And I think knowing what I know now, I might have worked harder to have got out that natural, instinctive cohort of similar-minded people. That's something I would look back on as a reflection.
Thank you. Thanks, Philip. Peggy, I don't know if you would be able to take the next question that was entered by Edward, or feel free to add on to the question posted about what did you wish you knew when starting the program looking back now? And the most recent question was, working full-time in a leadership position, what is the time commitment while in the program? What is the in-person class time?
Oh, okay. I'll start by echoing what my colleagues have said in terms of that. And the time commitment is, it's consider it an 8-hour day on Saturday. It's a full day. And one of the things I wanted to mention was how much I admired how Laura handled this on Saturdays, because not only is she a major leader in her own right all week, but she has children. And so Saturday means that, you know, there are soccer games or dance recitals or whatever. You know, these are major events in the children's lives. And Laura had to make decisions on how to handle that and what she could and couldn't do. And we all admired how well she navigated that and did what she could and worked around what she couldn't. And that takes, we just admired you for that, Laura, and how you did that. I would wanted to say also, as Philip said, the time amount that is required of you is largely dependent on you, on your field of study, on your level of preparation, on what you know, what you don't know when you come in. Some of us have been out of school for a long time when we come into these programs, and that's a bigger adjustment for us than somebody who's coming straight from a master's program. So I think it's very variable, but you should consider it, and as Philip said, it takes more of your time as you go on. The first semester is a big learning curve. It's a big change curve in your life, big adjustment. But as you begin to work on your dissertation, that is a major commitment of time. As I can tell you, as we can all tell you, but as our faculty can tell you, who spend a lot of time with us. Dr. Joe spent hours with me on mine, and I'm so grateful for that. So, I hope that answers the question.
Great. Yes. Thank you.
Can I jump in there? Because I see the question about what if I knew then what I know now. And I think the one thing that we knew, and I don't like speaking in generalizations, but just from my cohort and just spending 3 years with them, we all knew going into this that it was going to be a large amount of work. It's not, if it were easy to earn a doctorate, then there'd be many more people out there. There's a small percentage of individuals that hold doctoral degrees. So we knew that it was going to be challenging going in. But what I didn't realize when I first started was how consuming it would be. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but it gets to a point when you start getting into your research, and after you've collected the research and you're analyzing it and you're looking at what it's telling you, and you're looking at implications for future practices and so forth, that you're really thinking about it all the time. So, for example, I remember I was getting ready for work one morning, and I was in the restroom, in the bathroom, and my theoretical framework popped in my head. I rushed to work, took out a napkin from Dunkin' Donuts, drew it out, and now it's in here. And I didn't know that I would be thinking about it all the time. But here's the thing that goes to the other part of one of the questions, and I believe it was the question that was asked about working full-time as a leader and managing that. Because it's a doctorate in organizational leadership, if that's the one that you're working toward, what you're doing all the time is you're thinking about how am what I'm doing currently, how can I apply what I'm learning in my doctoral program, how can I apply that in my current work? And so what you do is you find a way to bridge the research that you're going to do with your actual work. So I'm the equity supervisor for Frederick County Public Schools. So my research is tied to the work that I actually do. And that is a big thing when it comes to a practitioner doctorate, that you're actually practicing. You're a scholar practitioner. So the research that I'm doing, the research that I was doing for class, the research I did for my dissertation, I applied that directly to my work. Now, when you think about our course in financial stability, I don't work in the finance side of my house, of my organization, but I was still able to find ways to connect that to the work that I do. So a doctoral work is hard work. Hood is a great place to do it at. The cohort is a great opportunity and a great group of people to do that with. But I think you have to go into it saying, how am I going to utilize the limited time I have to the best of my ability to earn this credential that's going to be able to serve me well in the future? So I think as you dive into this, it's rolling up your sleeves and saying, it's a 3-year commitment. It's going to require a lot of work, but I can do it. And you can do it.
Hear, hear, Eric. Well said. Thank you. I think we will end on this final question posed by David. Thanks for adding in this question. After one or more of our panelists address this final question, we will be staying in the webinar to have a follow-up conversation with Dr. Bands, who of course is our faculty leader in the doctorate here at Hood College. So, final question, panelists. Can you?
Okay, so April, I'll take this, please.
Yeah.
So David, I thought about this for a few moments, and I think for myself, my career, my life has been in a very tangible, functional role. I served in the British Royal Navy. I was an engineer. I went to business school. I work in technical areas right now. I hope I'd allow others to make this judgment. I hope my growth has been to see life and situations through the lens of people, I'd say, like people here, particularly like Laura and Eric, people who are in education, people in medical fields, people working for the VA. I've always had a high regard for these people. My wife is a nurse. But to sit in class for 3 years with these good friends and just not just have respect for people in let me say, caring and social roles, but to actually listen in depth over a considerable period of time and really get to get a sense of how they look at things and why they look at things that way. I hope, and I'll allow others to judge that in due course, I hope that's had some influence on who I am as a person.
Excellent. And just to share that question for those of you who don't have your chat bubble up, the question was, as you might have surmised, what amount of personal growth can be experienced in the program? So I'm not sure if another one of our panelists would like to address that. Laura?
Yeah, I can address that too. I didn't know that I had the capacity to grow as much as I did in this program, truthfully. I can honestly say that I am not the same person that I was going in. I always did recognize myself as a confident leader, and I pride myself on that confidence, and sometimes there's overconfidence. However, the growth in this one is a different type of a confidence that you get because you have this knowledge that if you don't have the answers, you know exactly where to go with them. But also, I find myself more critical of any news show that's on right now or anyone who's speaking, who's justifying what they're saying with research. I find myself critiquing that research in a different way than I ever did before. Like the level, I don't know how to say it best, the level of confidence comes from an intelligence that's more of a social intelligence that says that you start to recognize in yourself and in others. And that's a different type of leadership. And I think that going through this experience, and very similar to what my colleague said, is you learn to listen to people in a different way, both with empathy, but then also to find out where is that information coming from. And you become a bit of a snob in that area where I want my information from the most reliable source, and you know how to get it, you know where to look for it. So it gives you a different type of a confidence. And that personal growth came through this 3 years.
If I could jump in there too, I think, Laura, it's funny that you say that because I was thinking the exact same thing. I call it being a connoisseur of information. And I'm not going to say that I wasn't that way before, but I think the 3 years in this program and just the critical thinking that you have to do, I'm very critical, and that can have a negative connotation, but I don't mean it that way. I'm very critical when I hear information. And what I'm thinking is, so where is that coming from? When people make broad generalizations, like everybody, like how do you know everybody? What research do you have to back that up? Where are you pulling that from? Who have you polled on that? Who's the person that's sponsoring the poll? You know, those kinds of things I'm thinking about. And I'm also thinking about for personally as a leader, when I'm listening to certain leaders, I'm looking at why decisions are being made. I'm analyzing, okay, what's your end game? How does that particular information or that particular decision that you're making going to benefit the larger group? Now, again, I told you all that I'm an education person, but one of the things, you know, that I learned in this program that also enhanced me is you think about, for those of you who are business folks, that triple bottom line was the social, environmental, and financial impact of this decision. And so even in the education world, I'm thinking about things that way. So again, just flying up above the organization, I'm looking at how does what we do here impact everyone? The decisions that we make here, how are they going to impact all members of our community? And then the Frederick community, what is what we do here as a community? How does that impact the state? And then what's the impact nationally? And right now we're living in a situation where we actually have to consider those things. So when I listen to information, I'm much more critical and I'm much more attuned to, okay, what is being said? What's the research to back it up? And how is that informing the decisions that are being made? And I don't think that I listened that carefully or that critically before, matriculating through this program. So it really has enhanced me that way. I think another thing personally that has helped me to do is be even more appreciative of the people in my life that support me, because you're going to need that support to get through this program. So it's made me more appreciative and more thankful for the individuals, because it's the individuals, not the things, in my opinion, that help us to be successful.
Well said, Eric. Any other closing thoughts from our esteemed panelists? All right.
I'd just like to mention how dedicated the faculty is to each of us as individuals, to the program as a whole. Obviously, Dr. Bands, Dr. Joes, Dr. Kadapa, those who helped form the program. But also, as Laura mentioned, the adjunct faculty, the guest speakers who are brought in to work with us, they bring such expertise and such avenues of pursuit. So you can meet with them outside of class, you can connect with them and become, colleagues in a sense with them. It's such a rich opportunity to meet excellence in your field, in other fields, and to see people give you the best that they have, give you their experience, give you their time, and help you just be better at what you are trying to do. So it's been an incredible experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I heartily encourage any of you who are serious about applying to do so.
Peggy, great closing words there. Thanks again to our panelists. I don't know that we could have delivered a community-focused webinar like this without these four particular folks that really brought some diverse perspective from a number of industries. So I hope our audience feels that sense of worth from this event, and I truly appreciate the great words that our panelists shared with us and the information that they conveyed. At this point, we will transition into a session with Dr. Bands, who is our faculty program director. She leads and oversees this wonderful doctorate that you've been hearing so much about over the last hour. So I'm just going to have a 1-minute pause, and this will give folks an opportunity to exit or end session. No one is required to leave. You are welcome to stay on a bit more and chat with Dr. Bands, but we will pause here just for a moment so that folks can, again, either end the session or get settled in for another 20 to 30 minutes with Dr. Bands, who will share some additional information that you may find very informative in regards to this event. Thank you all.